There we go. Good morning. I am Sandra from Maryland Crime Victims Resource Center. Every month we try to do a topic that we think would be helpful for our community. One of the other programs that we have, in addition to our Lunch and Learns, is a program called Paths to Healing, where we like to introduce different ways that are not like your traditional therapy that we feel could be helpful to some people who don't necessarily want to do the lay back on the couch and tell me all your problems type of therapy. So people that want to do something a little bit different, and just exposing people to those types of therapies. Maybe they'll love it, maybe they won't, but you don't know that things are out there unless they're introduced to you. So we had that program. We had a yoga session that was scheduled for the end of last year. Unfortunately, we didn't have a great sign up for it, so we didn't do it. So we thought we'd bring it to you guys at home live. So joining us today is Christine Wolf. I will let her introduce herself, and then we'll hop into a few questions before we start our yoga. And so, Christine, before you introduce yourself, can you tell people don't need anything extra to bring? Maybe a rolled up towel? No, nothing?
So comfy clothes is the most important. You guys can see I wore my sweatshirt to work today. I think being comfy doing yoga is one of the most important things. If you have some water or something to drink, have that available. If you have pillows or a blanket, grab them. If you don't feel like using them, I'm going to give you options for using them as well as options for not using them. And I'm here at work. I did not bring my mat. If you have a mat, you can use it. It is definitely not necessary.
Okay, perfect. So for you guys that are joining us at home, some water and, maybe a mat if you need it, or, just get comfy. And while you do that, we're going to hop into learning more about Christine. So, Christine, can you go ahead and introduce yourself for all of our viewers at home?
Yeah, so welcome. I'm Christine Wolf. I work at Trauma Specialists of Maryland. I'm located in our Frederick, Maryland branch, but we do work with people in a couple of nearby states and do lots of virtual sessions. I am also a yoga teacher and a yoga teacher trainer, meaning that I train people to learn how to teach yoga, and I really just have so much passion for doing a mixture of yoga and therapy. I know that you were talking about other options than laying on the couch, but hey, if you want to lay on my couch when you come for talk therapy, you can do that too. I work with children through adult, and I am just really excited to get to share some of this stuff with all of you guys.
Love that. I love that there's different opportunities, and I think the exposure to that is such a process, and you never know what helps unless you try.
Yeah.
So yoga. I think that a lot of people think of yoga as these really bendy, stretchy people,
Mhm.
and people might find that intimidating because they're like, "Oh, I can't even put my shoes on." So let's if you're cutting your toenails and you have to take a deep breath and you got to put your foot on the table or something, they're like, well, then I can't do yoga because I can't get on the floor.
Yeah.
So tell us more about flexibility. Like what do people need to be like?
People need to be in whatever bodies they come in. There is no requirement to be flexible in yoga. I think it's wonderful that we have learned how to talk about yoga and we see it, in shows and movies and magazines, and all of that is wonderful, but it has given us a lens that we need to be super bendy and, super flexible and talented and skilled and balanced. And that's just not the reality, particularly when we're doing the kind of yoga that we're going to do here today. A trauma-informed yoga tends to be run a little bit more gently. There tends to be lots of options given. So if this pose doesn't feel good in your body, here's another pose to try. And also, how are we going to get flexible if we don't start moving our body? So there is absolutely no expectation or need to be flexible to do it, but you might find that doing yoga may actually build a little bit of flexibility in your body that you didn't know you had.
Yeah, I love that. So personally, I always add my own little personal stories to everything that I do because that's just the person that I am. I got into yoga because I dislocated my kneecap, and there wasn't a whole lot I could do without, my kneecap being proper. So I started doing yoga, and it has been it. I think it is so true that if we're just giving up on those movements, we're just going to lose movement. So, not only will you be helping us to use it as a healing process, but also just for your general well-being and feeling good. Uh, Definitely helps when it comes to that mental health as well. So thanks for sharing that as well. Um, so tell me more about using yoga for trauma survivors and how that differs from just regular yoga.
So I'll start with how it differs. Regular yoga is traditionally offered in a studio or maybe a gym. We can access it on YouTube, and it's wonderful. It offers a lot of really wonderful health benefits. That said, it's something that can be offered in a hey, do this, this is good for your body, and now do this, this is good for your body. And I love that. I teach regular yoga as well. However, trauma informed yoga is very, very different. It's all about options and helping people to figure out what their body needs and what feels best and most supportive in their body in any given moment in time. And this can bring a lot of really wonderful nervous system regulation when we start to tune into actually reaching my hand towards my foot felt miserable, but letting my hand rest on my knee, it's actually giving me this really gentle stretch that feels good. And so starting to tune into what our body needs and how to meet those needs can bring about a sense of safety within our nervous system. It can bring about a sense of confidence within our nervous system where our bodies start to learn that, hey, we can meet their needs. We know what to do that will help them. Choice for people who've experienced trauma is just instrumental. And so that is woven into trauma-informed yoga where there's a ton of choice. And it's not intended to be so many choices that a person gets, overwhelmed with decisions, but more oriented at like, let's figure out what your body needs to feel soothed. And so that can really differentiate it from what you might experience when you walk into a just any sort of yoga class at the local studio.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, and so what about if some of those poses do hurt? And I don't think that you're going to get into a whole bunch of those really crazy grasshoppery type of, praying mantisy type of things today. But let's talk about that because I think that everyone's in a different body type, and people are, I think people are hesitant, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about what do you do if something hurts, and I know that you're going to do some of the adjustments, right?
Mm-hmm.
In our session today. And so in yoga, like it's not like a lot of other exercises where there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. There's a traditional way to do it, and then there's like an adjusted way to do it, like if you're finding that you're having difficulty. So what should someone do if the pose hurts or feels uncomfortable?
The first is always just to pause and check in to see if you can tell the difference between is this pain or is this new awareness. So for any of us, when we haven't really moved, we are going to notice some sensations in our back and our hamstrings, right? And so learning to differentiate, that's a sensation because I haven't really moved my leg in that way versus that's pain. And so I do often ask people, take a moment to see if you can tell which it is, because it's important. If it's pain, we got to help you. Yoga should not be painful. Yoga should not send anybody to the ER because they hurt their back. It should feel good, but sometimes it can feel intense if you're stretching a part of your body that hasn't been stretched. So I always ask people, what is it you're noticing? Can you tell the difference? If you can't, things to look for are, if you can pinpoint a spot on your back that hurts, then come out of the pose. If you're doing this at a studio or with someone in person, let that teacher know right away, hey, it hurts here in my back. But if it's more of like a general, my leg is just like really feeling a lot, then at that moment, we would talk to you about just decreasing the stretch just a little bit more. And I'm going to be talking through that and kind of verbally walking you through how to decide how to shift just enough out of the pose to make it feel a little more accessible to you. And I love that, Sandra, you were saying like, there's not a right or a wrong. And for the most part, there is not a right or a wrong. The only time that there is a right or a wrong is if you're aligned in such a way that you could get injured. We're not going to be doing any of those poses today just because I can't see the folks who are joining us. But in a traditional class,
we appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. I always tell people, like, I just don't want yoga to be sending you to the doctor's office. So our session today isn't. In some classes, there are poses that if you do misaligned, it could end up injuring you. And so in those, kinds of classes, I always recommend if you're feeling uncomfortable and you're not sure, ask the teacher and they can give you a quick glance and let you know if you need to make a change.
Perfect. Lovely. Love it. And then our last bit before we hop into gathering whatever things that you guys need at home, what should someone do? Where can people find, let's say they love this. Let's say they love using yoga as a therapy, and separately, if they're loving the movement, not so much for therapy, but maybe just as a regular type of, like, where would they find resources where they could find a studio, like a yoga studio, or a specialist near them that does trauma? So either or.
Yeah. So there are some therapists that are also yoga teachers. I wish that there was a directory of like just that blend. There's not, but a lot of times if you're Googling somebody, you'll see that if they list the letters, some semblance of RYT, and you can see that in my letters.
Okay.
Yeah. If there's some semblance of RYT, that means registered yoga teacher. The E for me means experienced. It just means that I have taken a certain level of training to be at that end. But even if it says RYT 200, that means that they have taken some kind of training that allows them to be able to support you in therapy plus with yoga. And you can let them know, hey, I'm kind of open to blending this. If you're just wanting to do more yoga, if you're realizing this made me feel present with my body, it slowed down my heart rate, I just want to do this, reach out to your local studios. A lot of studios are realizing the importance of having trauma-informed classes, and so many have a few trauma-informed yoga teachers on staff. And so reach out and ask them, do you have anyone who has completed trauma-informed yoga training? And you do want to ask if it's completed a training. Someone who cares a lot about trauma does not necessarily have the skills and tools to lead you through yoga in the trauma-informed way. So you do want to ask about the training. And if they say yes, try out that class, see how it feels in your body, check in with your body. If they say no, but we recommend such and such a class, some classes to look out for that tend to be just a little bit more regulating on the nervous system would be like a yoga class or a restoration or gentle yoga class, I should say, or a restorative yoga class. If you are going into hot yoga, that is not going to be trauma informed. Do not do it for managing
trauma.
The
hot body stuff. That's the hot body stuff.
That is going to amp your nervous system up. So skip that. If it's a flow class, it isn't always as regulating to the nervous system. In fact, people can kind of go to a flow yoga class and just go through the motions and check out of their bodies a little bit. So I really do recommend gentle yoga. Hatha yoga can often mean it's that slower paced. We are going to be doing a form of gentle yoga. It's going to be done hatha, meaning I'm not going to ask you to go from pose to pose in this like dancerish way. We're going to do a pose, we're going to pause, or we're going to come out of it. And so those types of yoga classes are things to look for.
Perfect. And I think that definitely someone who is questioning their ability and maybe just really trying to start moving, those are the ones that are really great because, if you're off balance or if you're worried about certain things, start off slow. You don't have to be the yoga master, doing all these complex things and standing on your head right off the cuff. Like, we can build up to that. So perfect. So Was there anything else that you wanted to add that I might have missed that you wanted to share?
Look for a yoga teacher who gives you options within poses. If you're finding a yoga teacher who says try this or this, that's probably a yoga teacher who can help you to figure out what is soothing and healing in your body. So that's always something to just be on the lookout for.
Perfect. Yes, I love that. And yeah, there's plenty on YouTube. Just make sure that you're conscientious about what you're doing. I think that, being online, even with this session, is really nice because you can kind of do it in your own space at your own time. And, nothing like rushing around getting stressed out to go to yoga for healing. Like, you kind of defeats the purpose when you're all worked up and having to fight traffic or something. So the opportunities are available. I've got a few favorites out there as well, depending on what my day looks like. So I also learned how to sleep doing yoga. I did like the nighttime, because I'm an awful sleeper. So anyway, good for that too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so everyone at home, if you are going to participate physically, go ahead and grab your water, grab your mat, grab whatever you need. We'll give you a couple seconds. I'm going to pop off and I'm going to let Christine take this in. And then towards the end there, we'll give you all our contact info once we're in closing. So go ahead and do that. And I'm going to mute and come off screen.
Perfect. Okay, so I am going to start by kicking my boots off. I should have done that to begin with. And excuse me, I'm also going to move my chair over to the side so that you guys can see me. So welcome to my cozy office. If you were to come see me in person, this is where we would be hanging out. I have a blanket here, and I've got some couch pillows. So again, you do not have to have fancy yoga supplies in order to access this form of yoga. If you've got some blankets or pillows, grab those. And I'm also going to bring my water near me. I always like to encourage people to have available fluids just to rehydrate. I know I said wear comfy clothes and it looks like I'm in jeans, but they are actually jeggings. They're super stretchy. So be as comfy as you can. And when you're ready, come into a seated position. Now I'm going to come into this position where I've got one ankle in front of the other ankle. That is not a position that's accessible for everyone. Some of you might be there and your knees might be way up high. That's okay if that's happening. That means you've got some tight hips. If you're there and that doesn't feel comfortable, you can actually grab one of your pillows or a couple of your pillows and sit on your pillows. This position can sometimes help those knees to drop a little bit closer to the ground. If you need 3 pillows, get 3 pillows. If you're someone who has yoga supplies and you've got a yoga block, instead of using a pillow, use your yoga block. And so really, our first moments here are just finding a sitting position that feels mostly accessible. Now, some of you might just not be able to find a position on the floor that is comfortable. And if that's happening for you, go ahead and sit on your couch or comfy seat. Anywhere that you can feel mostly comfortable will work for this. Now, I'm going to ask you to take a couple of moments and just check in with your body to see if there's anything else that you need to feel even more settled. And so maybe some of you are realizing that you left that fan on in the other room and it's driving you nuts, or you need to change the thermostat. Make those changes if you need. Again, this is all about checking in to see what will help me to feel the most present in my body. Now, I'm going to ask you to place a hand on your stomach or 2, right around the belly button part. And without making any changes in your breath, I'm going to ask you to see if you can just feel your breath. Now, generally, there's some sort of movement that we should feel through our stomach that pairs with the movements of our breath. So you might notice that on your inhale, your stomach presses forward, even if it's only a tiny bit. You might notice that stomach pressing forward into your hands. And on the exhales, you might feel that stomach pressing back into your spine. Don't force that. Just notice if you can feel it. And if you can, take the next couple of breaths just following your breath, not making any changes, but just following the breath. If your mind needs a task, you could think the words in on the inhale and out on the exhale. If your mind starts to wander, bring it back, just noticing in and out. And notice if there's any other place in your body where you can feel the breath. There's no right or wrong. We're just checking in. If this feels right for you, you could just stay there, just following your breath, noticing the inhale and the exhale. If you feel ready to try something new, on your next inhale, begin to fill up your belly with air, pressing that stomach a little more purposefully into your hand as it fills up with air. And on the exhale, a little more purposefully, draw your belly button back into your spine. There's no other thing that you need to be focused on. Just inhaling, filling your stomach with air, exhaling, squeezing the air out, belly button comes back to spine. So these are belly breaths. Take a few more of these on your own pace, just noticing what it feels like to fill your belly up, to exhale and squeeze the air out. You might notice a desire to change the pace of your breath. If that's what your body's needing, it's okay. Now, after your next exhale, check in with your body. If you'd like to stay here, just filling your belly and exhaling the air out. If you'd like to try something new, place one hand on your belly and the other hand on the side of your ribs. I know it might feel a little bit awkward, but feeling these areas in our body can help us to know where to fill it. And so if you're here, on your next inhale, begin by filling your belly and then fill up to your ribs. Exhale through your ribs and then through your belly. I know with the computer a little bit further away from me, you may not be able to hear the fullness of my breath, but we're working on filling up these two areas of our body. So first the belly, then the ribs. Exhaling through the ribs and through the belly. If this feels okay, continue here. Inhaling through belly, then through ribs. Exhaling through ribs, and then through belly. As you're doing this, you may begin to notice that when you breathe up into the ribs, you might feel them actually expanding out a little bit. This is just the part of your lungs that are really filling up with air. And then on your exhale, you may feel them draw inwards again as your belly then squeezes back into the spine. This doesn't mean it's any big noticeable change that's happening with your body. All that's happening is the lungs are filling and expanding on the inhale and then deflating on the exhale. If you're here, let's take a few more rounds in through the belly, then through the ribs, exhaling through the ribs, and then through the belly. Let's do two more. Inhale through belly, then through ribs, exhale through ribs, then through belly. One more. Inhale through belly, then through ribs, exhale through ribs, then through belly. And take a moment and just noticing all of these shifts that might be happening in your body, or maybe not many. Then decide if you'd like to stay here go back down to the belly breaths, go back down to just noticing your breath, or move with us towards one more shift in our breath. Check in to see what your body needs and go there. If you are joining for this final shift in our belly or in our breaths, when you're ready, one hand goes on your belly, one hand back on the ribs. Begin by inhaling through your belly, then through your ribs, then through your chest. Exhale, empty your chest, your ribs, your belly. Let's try that again. Inhale, fill your belly, your ribs, your chest. Exhale through your chest, your ribs, your belly. Inhale, belly, ribs, chest. Exhale, chest, ribs, belly. Inhale, belly, ribs, chest. Exhale, chest, ribs, belly. When you're ready, let your hands just rest down towards your feet or your knees. Notice if there's any shifts that happened in your body as you explored with your breath. Now, for some of us, we begin to focus on our breath and we immediately feel this wonderful relaxation and we think, oh, why don't I do this more? And for others of us, we do the breath and we think, my body isn't doing what I want it to do. I hate this. I'm never doing yoga again. If that's you, I encourage you to sit with whichever breath felt manageable for you. For some of us, learning to breathe in a way that feels soothing for our nervous system takes a couple of tries, and for some of us, a couple more after that, but we get there. For our next breath, this one often feels more accessible to people who maybe just don't feel super comfortable focusing on their breathing. We're going to stay in this seated position and bring our fingertips out to our sides. My fingertips are just gently resting. Now, draw your shoulders way up to your ears and then let them drop down as far as they go. On your next inhale, reach your arms all the way up to the sky. So inhale up. Then on your exhale, let one hand rest to the ground and the other hand reach towards that wall. Inhale, stretch right back up towards the center. And exhale, switch sides. One hand to the ground, the opposite arm stretching over the ear. Inhale, back up. And exhale, stretch. Inhale, back up. Exhale, stretch. Inhale, reach. Exhale, stretch. Inhale, reach. Exhale, stretch. Let's do one more each side. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Now, the next time that you reach up, take a big breath in. Exhale into the ground, but this time we're going to hang out here for a couple of breaths. And so as we're resting here, our goal is to see if we can build some space through the side ribs. Now, if anyone's got a shoulder injury and it feels terrible to hang out with your arm reaching over, you can always bring that hand down to your waist. If that feels more accessible, hang there. Wherever you are, notice what happens when you deepen your breath. Can you feel more of a stretch through these ribs? Some people like to rotate their chest and gaze up to the ceiling. You could try that and see how it feels in your body. We're just looking for a gentle stretch here. Notice those sits bones. These are the bones really that are just kind of like in your bum, and press both of them down into the ground as we stretch here. If this feels good, you're welcome to hang here for a couple more moments. Otherwise, when you're ready, you reach right back up through the center and switch sides on your exhale. So same thing here. We're working to build a stretch through the side body. If this shoulder is feeling uncomfortable, you can always bring a hand down to the waist. Wherever you are, we're working on finding a stretch through those ribs. Some of us like to, again, just rotate up, gazing up at the ceiling, kind of rotating this armpit up towards the ceiling. Sometimes we notice a big difference from one side to the other, so you might be noticing that. And when you're ready, inhale, reach all the way up. Now on your exhale, just swing those arms behind you. Mine are catching on this couch here. Clasp your hands together if you can and squeeze the shoulder blades together. Maybe even bring your gaze up, let the shoulders drop down as much as they can. When we're here in this position, we're just bringing a little bit of space and stretch through our chest, which for many of us can get really tight. And then whenever you're ready, just let your hands go. Settle back into your seated position and take a moment just noticing what you're most aware of in your body. There's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. We're just checking in. What are we most aware of? Whenever you're ready, begin to straighten one leg and keep the other bent. And I'm going to scoot back just a little bit here so that you can see more of my straight leg. Hopefully my socks aren't dirty. So as we're sitting here, whichever leg you've chosen to have straight will be straight in front of you rather than out to the side. So try to imagine this line from your heel coming all the way back into your hip bone. Now, the leg that's bent may not look just like mine. Again, if you've got tight hips, your knee's probably up here, and that is totally okay. Find a placement that feels the most accessible. So having your foot way up close to your body feels too tight on those hips, you could lower your foot down closer towards your knee. Now, if you're really tight today, you might feel a stretch in your straight leg just sitting here, and I actually am. I'm feeling a stretch through my hamstring and my low back that is telling me I sat way too much today and yesterday. And you get to decide if this level of stretch is enough for you or if you'd like more of a stretch. If you'd like more of a stretch, inhale to lift your head really tall. And on your exhale, begin to slide your hands a little bit further down your leg. Don't go all the way. Just kind of pause, maybe midway, and check in. Notice if this feels like enough of a stretch for you. We're looking for something where you do feel the stretch, so you should be noticing some sensations in your body. However, not so much stretch that your body is tightening up. If your body is tightening up, begin to walk those hands up a little bit higher, maybe past your knee. If you're here and you're not feeling enough of a stretch, again, inhale to lift your chest, and on your exhale, walk those hands further down until wherever it is that you feel a stretch. For some of you, that might be on your toes. For some of you, you might be feeling the stretch way up here on your thigh. There's not a right or a wrong. It's just about what feels useful in your body. I like to talk about the Goldilocks effect of not too much, not too little, but that just right amount. Now, the thing with these stretches is often staying in them, our body begins to soften and sometimes slide a little bit deeper into the stretch. And so your task is just to be with your body in whatever it needs from you in this moment. And what a gift it is to be able to sit with our bodies and offer them whatever they need in this moment. Sometimes it's hard to know. But if we keep asking, if we keep looking, our body will give us signs what it needs. Now, if you're getting a really good stretch here and you just want to stay for a while, you are welcome to. If you are ready to come out of this pose, begin to walk your hands back up. Whenever you're ready, switch sides. Now, I know I mentioned earlier, sometimes one side is very different than the other. And so whatever happened on your first side might not happen here. So we start the same way, just by sitting tall, one leg straight. And if this is enough of a stretch for you, stay just as you are. Remember, you can adjust where your bent leg is. If you need to straighten it out to make it more accessible for your hip, you're welcome to. If you're looking for more of a stretch, inhale to lift your head tall. On your exhale, walk your hands forward just a little bit. Give your body some time to just settle in. Notice if it needs more or if it wants to stay as it is. And if it does want more of a stretch, inhale to lift your chest up again. Exhale, walk your hands a little bit further. And so again, on this side, we're just meeting our body where it is. We're asking it what it needs from us. Notice if there's any places in your body that you could soften. And so for me, I'm noticing I could soften through the back of my straight leg. And I'd ask you to notice what your body needs. Is there somewhere that's tight, that's holding on, that's gripping on? Could you soften there? If this is feeling really useful for you, you're welcome to stay. If you're ready to come out of this pose, begin to walk your hands right back up. And now I'm going to ask you to come onto your hands and your knees. So I'm going to come sideways so that you can see my spine alignment here. And so here, this is table pose. And I just found a really lovely ladybug underneath me. I think that means luck for all of us. In table pose, we have a wrist underneath a shoulder and then a knee underneath the hip. Now, we then press the tops of our feet into the ground and our palms into the ground. As we do this, we begin to work on flattening the back. And so a good place to focus is your low back. To notice if you can draw your belly button into your spine to flatten the low back. Now, for some of us, table pose actually feels like a lot of work, and in many ways it is. If you're getting a lot of work, you're welcome to stay here. If you're someone who tends to be very, very active and maybe even has experience in yoga, you're also welcome to come into a down dog here. And a down dog is that upside down V shape. However, I'm going to be demonstrating in table pose. And so here, whichever way you're working from, we are now working on activating our muscles through many areas of our body. If you're in down dog, go ahead and come down to meet us here in table. We're going to begin to do a little bit more pairing with our breath and our body movements. So on your next inhale, lift your chest and your hips. On your exhale, round your back, bring your chin to your chest. If that felt okay, take that a few more times. Inhale to lift your chest and your hips. Exhale, round your back, chin to chest. Inhale, fill your lungs with air, let them expand. Exhale, squeeze the air out. Let's try this movement one more time. Inhale, lift your chest. Exhale, squeeze the air out. And when you're ready, come back to sit on your heels. Notice if that movement gave any change of sensation through your chest. You might be feeling your heart begin to speed up, or maybe some changes in the heartbeat. If your wrists are sore, you could begin to just roll your wrists out. This can happen since many of us just don't spend a lot of time crawling around on the floor. And then when you're ready, come up onto your knees and press either foot forward. The ankle will be under the knee, not past the knee. So if you're past the knee, or if your knee rather is past your ankle, this can put too much pressure on your knee. But when that ankle is underneath the knee, it can help to safeguard it. If your back knee is uncomfortable, putting some weight on it, you could actually slide your blanket or your pillow underneath your back knee. Now, your options here for hand placements are hands on your hips, hands at your heart center, or hands up to the ceiling. We're only going to be here for a couple of breaths, so choose the hand position that feels most useful to you. I'm actually going to bring my hands down to my heart center. And as you're here, work on squeezing your inner thighs towards each other. This will help that balance. Let's take one more breath in and breath out. And when you're ready, bring this knee right back to the center and we'll switch sides. So again, make sure this ankle is underneath your knee. Options for hands at your waist, heart center, or in the air. And notice as you breathe in, if you can feel anywhere in your body expanding with air, and anywhere in your body squeezing the air out. Take one more breath in, exhale, and bring your knees back. So we're going to come into child's pose, and I'm going to show you two options for your feet placement. One is with your feet together and your knees wide, then sitting back. For most of us, this will feel the most comfortable. Some of you will prefer to have your feet together and your knees together. And my encouragement is to try both once we get in the pose and see what feels better for you. Either way you choose with your knees, keep your feet together. I'm going to demonstrate this with my knees wide, my feet together. And then we begin to stretch our fingers forward and let our foreheads rest on the ground. Option is for hands to be forward or by your sides. Either option is fine. If you're here and you're having a hard time getting your forehead to the ground, grab one of your blankets or pillows and bring your forehead there instead. And so I'm demonstrating here. Either option would be fine. Now I'm going to place my blanket back off to the side. Come back down. Today I'm going to have my arms stretched forward in child's pose. And begin to draw your attention back to your breath. Notice if you can feel your back rise and fall on your inhale and exhale. And be here for about 2 or 3 more breaths. I'm going to sit back up to make sure that I'm not muffled as I speak. But as you're in child's pose for these 2 or 3 more breaths, notice if there's any place in your body you can allow to settle a little bit deeper into the ground. Maybe a little bit more softening of your body or a little bit more heaviness of your body. Child's pose is a wonderful pose to do to support feelings of relaxation, of peace or calm, to support deep sleep. This is a pose that you could be in for as long as you like. And if you're here and you're feeling really comfortable in child's pose, I encourage you to stay as long as you want or to even come back to it after we're done with our session. If you are ready for our next pose, come join us on your back. Any way that you can get there is fine. And once you're on your back, I'm just making sure here, I think you guys can see me okay. Once you're on your back, stretch your arms all the way out to a T with your knees bent, feet to the ground. This pose is very, very safe for backs. However, if you have an existing and current back injury, or if you are pregnant, come into any of the other poses we've done that have felt good in your body. Otherwise, you can join us by letting your knees rest off to the side and then turn your gaze to look in the opposite direction of your knees. It doesn't matter exactly where your knees land. Wherever you are, notice any sensations through your stomach or ribs or spine. You might notice a gentle stretch somewhere through your body. You might notice that your breath feels different here. You may not be able to breathe as deeply, and this is okay. We'll be here for a few more moments, letting our bodies settle into this very gentle twist. When you're ready, you can bring your knees up through the center and switch sides, allowing your knees now to land on the other side and turning to look away from your knees. Just as with our other poses, you might notice that one side feels different from the other. I encourage you to draw your attention to any areas in your body that need help softening, or perhaps need encouragement to settle into the ground. You might notice a stretch somewhere through your stomach, ribs, or back. The twists are another wonderful way to soothe your body when it's feeling anxious or worried or having a difficult time falling asleep. Whenever you're ready, roll off onto either side and gently press yourself up to sit. In a traditional yoga class, we do a pose called Shavasana at the end, where we lay on our back and we rest. Since you guys are hopefully mostly at home or in offices or somewhere where you have more props, I am going to teach you a different pose for our Shavasana. We're actually going to use chairs, or a couch would be fine. I'm going to use the chair just because it's kind of angled best for the camera to see me, but you're welcome to use a couch, you're welcome to use a stool or a bench. We're going to be letting our legs rest up here while our back is on the ground. So take some time to find some piece of furniture that feels like it's the most accessible for you. And then whenever you're ready, come up to sit as close to that piece of furniture as you can, and actually sit so that your knees are kind of facing away. We're making a little bit of a T shape here. So your hips and your shoulder are going to be right up next to this piece of furniture. And it might be a little bit awkward or clumsy as you do this, but you're going to begin to lean back. And as you lean back, swing your legs up to land onto this piece of furniture and slowly pivot right back so that you are eventually facing the furniture and your calves are resting on the furniture. It doesn't have to be a perfect 90-degree angle. We're just getting the legs up in the air and then eventually just scooching back so that our spines are on the ground. If you are like me and have some bright lights above you and it's driving you nuts, you are welcome to turn the lights down or off if that's not accessible to you. Some people like to actually cover their eyes if you're just kind of underneath a very bright light. Otherwise, you can choose to rest your hands either on your stomach over the belly button area or on the ground, palms up or down. For today, I'm going to let my hands rest on my belly button. And as you're here, notice if there's any places in your body that you could allow to settle a little bit deeper into the ground. Maybe there's a place in your back or your shoulders that you could allow to settle a little bit deeper into the ground. Notice if there's any place in your body that you could allow to settle in a little bit deeper into the furniture that you're using. And notice if there's any place in your body that you could soften. Perhaps your stomach. Perhaps somewhere through your ribs or your chest. If you're having a difficult time with stillness, if your mind needs a task, you could draw your mind back to your breath. And just notice your inhale and your exhale. Remembering that you could think the words in and out with your breath. If your mind begins to wander, guide it back to the inhale and the exhale. Notice the heaviness in your body. Notice all of the areas where your body is connected to the ground beneath you. And whenever you're ready, begin to find some movement again through your toes and maybe your hands and fingers. And when you're ready, there's a couple options to come out of this pose. You could begin by just pressing your feet up to the edge of the furniture and then rolling onto your side. This often feels the best for most people. If that doesn't feel good for you, you could come right back up the way that we got into this by a little bit of a scooch up onto your arms and kind of a swing back to the center. However feels easiest and most comfortable for you, you can come back up to the center and into the seated position. And just take a moment just scanning your body, noticing what you're aware of. I like to end my yoga practices with a gratitude practice. So I would encourage you to think the words, "I am thankful for," and find just one thing that you're thankful for. When we end yoga, we end with the word namaste, and it's a way of acknowledging the light and the goodness inside each of us. So as I bring my hands to my heart center, I acknowledge and notice the goodness inside each of you. Namaste. I'm going to come right back up to join Sandra, but I'm going to hang out here so I don't have to drag my chair back. Oh, Sandra, you are on mute.
I did that on purpose. I think the end part is always my favorite, is kind of leading you into your day in a positive way, even though I know that, when dealing with trauma, it's kind of tough to be in that space, but it's also really important for us to kind of lead, with positivity. And I just wanted to say the one thing that I really love about yoga is all that beginning stuff when you're stretching out. I feel like as humans, we're so crunched in all the time. We're sitting, we're on a couch, even when you're sleeping, you're kind of balled up. So it's really nice to kind of like extend and stretch out, spread those wings a little bit. So that is always the stuff that just feels the best to me. So thank you so much, Christine, for sharing those movements with us and just giving everybody a little bit of a taste of what yoga could be like. Particularly for those who have not done it. If you at home, well, I'm going to let Christine talk about it. Christine, they can come to you if they're interested in becoming yoga instructors, sessions, regular sessions, right? You do regular sessions and trauma-informed sessions for therapy. She's a therapist, all the things. So go ahead and push out all that good info for people here.
Yeah, reach out if you are looking for trauma therapy. Reach out to us at Trauma Specialists of Maryland. We specialize in trauma. We do EMDR. Each of the therapists here at our office do EMDR. I think 2 others do yoga as well in our practice. We have tons of folks both in Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Delaware who love to work with folks with trauma. So reach out if you're looking for more traditional trauma therapy, or let us know if you'd like to blend trauma therapy with yoga so that our intake specialists can pair you with any of us who also incorporate yoga in.
Lovely. Thank you so much. And is there a website that they should be visiting?
Yes. So Trauma Specialists of Maryland.com. Although, you know what? Sometimes I say the same thing.
Is it Maryland or is it MD?
That's suddenly I'm like, gosh, I've said this so many times. Do I know our own website? I gotta check this out.
Because I think your email is just MD.
Our email is just MD. And I am just kind of giggling at myself. I feel like I'm forgetting my phone number or something.
I caught you, yeah.
Yeah.
Keep on your toes.
Such a little brain fart here.
I do it all the time.
Oh, gosh. Okay. So we are trauma specialists. Of course, it's coming up to my email. Let me pull up. I hope that our owner is watching this and giggling, wondering what has gotten.
It's a case of the Mondays on a Tuesday. It's okay.
For sure. Okay. We are trauma specialists of MD.com.
Of MD.com. All right. I'm dropping that in the chat box here. Thank you so much, Christine. And I am Sandra Santa Buckles at Maryland Crime Victims Resource Center, where we provide free legal resources to victims of crime throughout the state of Maryland for absolute $0. So, it's unfortunate to meet people in these capacities. You never want to start with a traumatic experience, but we are here, both Maryland Crime Victims and trauma specialists are here on your journey. If that is your case, we are here, and having those resources available, I think, is so important. Just also wanted to give a plug for, we do have a mental health program that is free of charge as well with Maryland Crime Victims Resource Center. So if you are uninsured or underinsured, or are having a hard time getting into a practice that might be accepting new clients, please give us a call and let one of our advocates help you and see how we can assist. We're also having a walk coming up. It's in April. It is in celebration is not really in because we are having it in April because of Maryland National Crime Victims' Rights Week, which is mid-April this year. It kind of is one of those floating weeks where you never really know where it's going to land. So it's National Crime Victims' Rights Week. We're raising awareness to resources that are available in the community. It is free to come out. We do have a page, so hop on one of our social media sites and find the link for that. It is victims coming together and the community coming together to support them in a way where we're raising awareness and raising education of different resources. So go ahead and grab that, and I hope to see you guys there. I will be trying to put on a really good program for you, and we should be having art therapy there in the pavilion. So again, if you're unable to physically walk a mile or 3 miles, no worries. Come out, learn, and we'll have art therapy in the pavilion as another healing resource that could, help somebody out there. So feel free to come out to that. All right. Any last words, Christine?
Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much for joining us and for always being such a valuable resource and so willing to participate in our community here. All right. Have a great day, and we'll tune in next month for our next Lunch and Learn, and hope to see you guys then. All right. Bye-bye.